Brothers and sisters, you're so welcome to our 33-day journey to Eucharistic glory. And we are now entering another week, week 2. And the theme of this week is the Eucharist and the saints. Brothers and sisters, the saints witness to us that God is alive and that the promise of Jesus to send the Holy Spirit upon the church is true and will always be true. Because the saints are living icons of this radical holiness. But guess what? We are all called to be saints. And this was the great message of Vatican II. Not a new message, but a reminder to the whole church to become saints. Nothing short than sanctity will change this world. And we see this in the person that we're studying today in Matthew Kelly. Matthew Kelly invites us to reflect on the life of Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta. It's amazing. This nun, this religious sister, who had an encounter with Jesus. She had a vision with Jesus that led her out of the congregation that she was in. At the time, she was a sister with the Sisters of Loreto, and then she ended up founding the Missionaries of Charity. But it was from her vision with Jesus that transformed her life, and that she went out into the world to do what nobody was doing in the society was where she was placed. And she was bringing children out of dustbins. People were dying on the streets of India without anybody caring and loving for them. And they brought this incredible radical love of Jesus, that Jesus had said in the gospel, that when you have a party, don't call those that you love, but call the lame, the blind, go out. That's where Christianity really kicks in. Remember Gandhi? Gandhi said that, he felt that it was a pity that Christians hadn't really lived the gospel, because if they did, that the world would be vastly different. And he himself was inspired so much by Christian values. Brothers and sisters, we are about this week about a holy movement to transform our land and our nation. And Mother Teresa is a perfect icon of how holiness is wild and how holiness radically transforms life. I've seen this again and again in my experience with you and with God's people in the parishes, my experience in Ireland, my experience in Rome, seeing people who truly are seeking union with God. They become wildfires, if you wish, to catch other people on fire and to draw people to Christ. And at the heart of the saints has always been the Holy Eucharist, because it makes sense. Because the Holy Spirit is always leading us to the bread of life, to Jesus. This is the mystery, and the work of the Holy Spirit is always to lead us to the source of all grace, by which the Holy Spirit will transform all of us into Jesus. And today in Matthew Kelly's book, Reflection on Mother Teresa, he says that this was the secret of Mother's life. In fact, when Mother was getting more and more popular, when the needs for the missionaries of charity, the nuns, were getting greater and greater, and they were being invited to other countries, and this revolution of love that she started was spreading, Mother decided to cut down some of her time with people and increase her time before the Eucharist. And Mother said it was at that time that when they had dedicated more time to Eucharistic adoration, did their vocations go up. And Mother, in the end, started with 1 hour, then 2 hours, then she was praying up to 3 hours a day, and probably more, in front of Jesus in the Eucharist. I know a story by a very good and holy priest who's still alive. He's in his 90s in America, Monsignor SF. And Monsignor SF is the founder of the Leo XIII Institute to train exorcists, and he's done huge spiritual renewal with priests. And he gave me a story about Mother Teresa that is pretty incredible. He told me recently. And Mother Teresa actually told him, because he was a man who loved the poor and was dedicated to the poor, and then she said to him, God had a different mission for him, and it was to renew the priesthood and to support his brother priests. But he was in Lebanon with her during a terrible civil war, a lot of conflict in Lebanon, and Mother had caught wind that there were about 40 abandoned orphans in one part of the city, and she wanted to go to them. But the government did not let her, because she said, Mother, you will literally cross through a fire between the two sides. So she called Monsignor SF and said, call all the sisters, and we must pray in front of Jesus in the Eucharist. We must pray until the ceasefire stopped so that we could go and get those children. So they did. They prayed hours and hours, and they were getting tired. And Mother said, keep praying, keep praying. And then a miracle happened. For the first time in months, there was a ceasefire. And mother was able to go with Monsignor SF to go and get those orphans. And it was because of being before Jesus in the Eucharist. There's something that just happens, brothers and sisters, when we are before Jesus in the Eucharist. Power goes forth from Jesus' Eucharistic heart to the whole world and transforms it. If you want to transform your families, your homes, go before Jesus. Go to the Holy Mass. Offer the Mass. Attend the Mass. Receive Jesus. It's a very practical thing. And we're really about trying to change the nation through these things. So this was mother's spiritual habit. And that's the theme of today. The spiritual habit. The heart of her life, the secret of her life was the Eucharist. I want to end on a quote by mother, because mother would teach us that when we adore Jesus in the Eucharist, we build a spiritual habit to look beyond the appearance of what looks like bread to find Jesus. The same is true, she would say, to then look beyond the human situations of life to find Jesus in the poor. And she would say this: all of us know that unless we believe and can see Jesus in the appearance of bread on the altar, we will not be able to see him in the distressing disguise of the poor. Therefore, these two loves are but one in Jesus. Brothers and sisters, bless you.